welcome to yet another fantastic episode here at Kaluhi'S Kitchen. Thrilled to have you guys here because today I'm going to take you along on the journey to make something that I have been craving to have along with my chai, and that is a zebra cake. This has been highly requested and I thought, you know what, today is the perfect day to make with you guys a zebra cake, and I'm going to add the flavors of cardamom and lime, which you guys are really going to enjoy. To my returning subbies, thank you so much for being here. I love you forever and ever. And to my new watchers, after this video, in fact, before he video ianze, press that subscription button. Thank you so much for being here. That said, let's get started and let's bake something super delicious. Karibuni. I have just separated my ingredients according to the stage at which we are going to work on them. But before we begin, I just want to mention there's a bit of construction going on outside at my neighbors. So please, humiliate too. This is totally out of my control. There'll be a bit of banging, but please focus on my voice. The banging is beyond my control. So back to the recipe. We now separated the ingredients according to dry and wet. You guys know it's very important to first start with the ingredients according to category, because you need proper mixing and proper marrying of ingredients. So for these ingredients, the dry ones in particular, we have our all-purpose flour, some baking powder which will act as our rising agent, and some cardamom for flavor, and some lime zest for a bit of excitement on your palate. In place of lime zest, you can use any other citrus fruit, and in place of cardamom, you can use any other warm spice. Cardamom is my #1 warm spice and it had to feature in this recipe. And with that said, let's go ahead and combine the dry ingredients. The dry ingredients are now done, and that was super simple. So we're going to set that aside and go into the wet ingredients. And here, as you can see, I have my mala, a bit of oil, my eggs, vanilla extract, and a bit of sugar. The sugar will be mixed into the wet ingredients, and it has to be added at this stage so that it can dissolve. If it's added with the dry, it will not dissolve. So that's why we add it with the wet ingredients. Everything we use has to be at room temperature. That does include your mala and your eggs. And speaking of mala, I talk about it a lot on Twitter. It's one of my favorite drinks of all time. But besides it being a fantastic drink, it's also amazing for marination, for making sauces, for baking, for cooking. It's a very versatile kitchen ingredient, so make sure you always have some in your fridge. To my foreign watchers, mala is fermented milk. It's very healthy for your body, and in place of mala you can use buttermilk, you can use kefir, you can use amasi. So with that clear, we're going to go right ahead and combine our wet ingredients. This is now absolutely perfect, and it won't take a large chunk of your time. Just a minute or two is enough to have everything combined, and just ensure once you've combined everything, you have these tiny bubbles over the surface of your mixture. That's how you know you are on the right track. Now with our wet and dry ingredients ready, we are going to combine the wet and the dry by pouring the wet into the dry. I know that we have our cocoa powder there for countertops. Jaisa how we're going to come back to it a bit later, but for now, let's combine. This is perfectly silky, and from the consistency you can tell that the cake we're going to bake will not only be super moist, but it will be really soft as well. And I attribute that to the mala and the oil specifically. This is now done, and now we're going to go to the final part of this ingredient, and that's using the last ingredient for this recipe, and that is our cocoa. I used sweetened cocoa, but you can use unsweetened cocoa. But if you use unsweetened cocoa, make sure you add a bit of sugar at this stage so that the bitterness of the cocoa is offset. Mimi, I used what I had in my pantry. That will still be fine. So what we're going to do next, in this other bowl, we're going to add about a third of this quantity of dough, and then we're going to mix in our cocoa. We're now done with the chocolate part of this dough, and it looks perfectly rich. It's very dense as well, and that is because of the dryness of the cocoa, but it will not affect the taste. So make sure once you make yours, you get this exact luxurious rich consistency, and you will know you are on the right track. Now with this done and this ready as well, over here as you can see, my bread tin is greased and dusted. That is because you are getting ready for baking, and the greasing and dusting is important because it will allow for easy release of your cake once it's done baking. So for the next step, we're going to add our doughs into our bread tin alternatingly. That means unaeka hii ya white kwanza, unaeka kando, then you take the chocolate one, unaeka, and then unaeka chini, then unachukua hii ya white, then alternatingly, like one after the other. Then after that, once everything is in, we're going to pass through a skewer just to give it a nice swirl, and then we're going to bake it at about 190 degrees Celsius for roughly 40 minutes, and then we're going to come back for tasting and plating. Absolutely gorgeous. And with that, guys, we have come to the end of this video, and you have seen for yourself making a lime cardamom zebra cake right at home is super easy, and I can't wait for you guys to try this out. As I was slicing, and my tummy was just growling, and my like this is uncontrollable, and that means we have to give this a taste test. And then let's set the tray aside because I have my tea over here. This is so good, especially with the tea. This is just so comforting, and I'm so happy I chose to make this today. The cake is nice and moist. You can taste the crispiness of the crust, and it sinks into a nice pillowy body. This is so delicious. You can taste the zest, you can taste the cardamom, and it warms up your body, and it's truly delicious. Whether you choose to have it for brunch, for breakfast, or maybe for chai ya sakumi, either way, it's always going to be super spectacular. Don't forget, as always, the exact recipe quantities are listed on my blog, link on the description box. And don't forget, this is baking, so you just can't go in blind. You have to follow the exact quantities that are listed on the blog, and I can't wait to see you guys prosper at this recipe. For me, it's now time to go and chill, rest my back, no more mgongo. As I do that, I'm going to really enjoy my cake. For you guys, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye.